Hi, Purple Jan here. Welcome to my channel, Tales from a Broken Brain. Back to talking about Christmas again. I started the other day when I was going through some way back childhood memories of Christmas. I'm just going to talk a little bit more about Christmas today and my memories of it, really. And to me, my memories of it, certainly from childhood right up until I had children of my own, was Christmas really focused around Christianity. And to me that's how it should be, which sounds odd because I'm not a Christian, but to me that is what the essence of Christmas was: the nativity and the church services and the carols and, you know, the carol singers that came to the door, the Christmas story. It was all focused around Christianity. You know, even at the top of the tree we would have a star, which was the Star of Bethlehem, or symbolised the Star of Bethlehem. And over the years since then, it seems to have turned into a rampant consumer fest, which I'm not at all comfortable with. This complete commercialisation of Christmas, to me, takes away the magic of it, which I think is a real shame. But, you know, as I say, growing up, you know, certainly after junior school, where you'd have your carol service at school. I don't remember so much of that happening at secondary school. Perhaps that's at the time it kind of changed over, but it did become this kind of consumer fest, and it all seemed to focus on presents and maybe not even the giving so much as what everybody wanted. You know, it seemed to be a huge I want festival. But maybe that's how I just experience other people relating about it. But, you know, I did, you know, right up into teenage and early 20s, still go to church services, which again, it sounds odd because I'm not a Christian, but to me that was part of what I knew as Christmas, and so I carried on those traditions. And then when I had my own children, it became, I would start to invite everybody to me because I would give them the biggest, best Christmas that I possibly could, and that involved people. And the more people, the merrier. You know, there wasn't any such thing as too many people to Christmas dinner. You know, I used to invite any and everybody to my Christmas table, to the extent where it would be, please come to dinner, bring your own cutlery, your own plate and your own chair, because I don't have enough to go around, but if you can bring those with you, you can sit at the table and we will all have dinner together and it'll be wonderful. And I used to borrow trestle tables from the local church, so put them all together in a huge square. We wouldn't dine in rows, we would have them all together, so there'd just be so many people, and you know, the house was full of noise and laughter and wrapping paper. And as I said in the last video, we developed this tradition of opening presents. I mean, the children would have most of their things in the morning, but then there'd be this big thing after dinner, but before pudding we would have all the adult presents would be given out and opened, so the Christmas table would be literally, you know, 2 foot deep in wrapping paper and things, and I enjoyed that. And that went on right up until I went back to work full time. You know, I was just doing that pretty much every year until I went back to work full time. And then when I was working, I said, you know, I can't do it this year. You know, I'm working full time, I'm raising 2 children, I'm running the home. I just can't do the big Christmas. Somebody else will have to do it this year. And so I expected somebody else to take it on and they would invite us, but Mum and Dad booked a restaurant. My sister decided to go to, I don't know if it was her husband's family or her boyfriend's family, or she went to somebody else. And everybody else just kind of drifted away and left me and the 2 kids on our own. And that Christmas was the worst Christmas that I'd ever had. It was sad, it was low. I did my best for the children, obviously. I still did the best. I still cooked a proper Christmas dinner for them. I still had presents for them, but it just didn't feel like Christmas. You know, with just 3 of us, it just didn't feel like Christmas. And I remember them both getting really quite annoyed with me at one point because I got the ironing board out because I was bored. And I had jobs that needed doing because I work full time, so I thought, well, I'll just get on with the ironing, and they were very put out about that. And then gradually, as they got older still, I kind of drifted completely away from Christmas, because when they were older, I became very open about my paganism, which I'd kept really undercover up until my son was 16, because years and years ago there was she's just been out, so I'm not going to let her out again. That's Echo the puppy. There was a lot of trouble with social services taking children into care because of so-called Satanism and satanic abuse and all this sort of thing, and that became very intertwined with paganism. People thought that pagans were also Satanists, which we're not. Nothing to do with Satanism. It's what we term an in-house Christian problem. We have no belief in the devil at all. But I kept everything very quiet while my children were underage, but once they became of an age where nobody could take them away from me, I started to practice my paganism quite openly and not keep it secret anymore. And when that happened, that meant that I could then move my celebration back a few days to Yule rather than Christmas Day, which by this time I hated by this time, you know. And I don't like all the present giving, to be honest. I never have. Well, I say I never have. As a child, I loved to give and receive presents, but once you get to an older teenager and into adulthood, I just remember the toe curling or the cringeworthy moments when somebody's given you something and they buy it for you with love and they give it to you with love and you hate it. And it's not what you want, and you know you're never going to use it, you don't like it. And I'm not one to say, have you got the receipt so I can take it back, because that's just not me. And, you know, sort of, I remember that happening once when I had Christmas at my house. And my mum had always bought my sister and I very similar things. And we both had boxes the similar size and shape, and almost weight really. And Chris opened hers first, and she got a portable TV for her bedroom, you know, one of the little ones that people had started putting in bedrooms. And I was so excited because I really wanted one for my bedroom, and I opened my parcel and I got a dinner set. I just bought a new one before Christmas because I knew I had people coming over. And I had these, you know, I got plates for dinner for Christmas. And, you know, Mum had thought that it was something that I needed or that I wanted. I don't know what she thought, but all I know is that Chris got something nice and I didn't. And, you know, when I was a bit younger, back living at home, we'd get presents from aunts and uncles and things. And I must admit, because she was the older sister, she always got pink thing and I got the blue or the other colour. Hang on, I'm just checking what have you, oh, she's got a bone, she's okay. Just checking she wasn't eating something she's not allowed to. Yeah, she always got the pretty girly thing and I got the same thing but not quite as nice. And I took to, if I found presents there that had come from aunts and uncles and things, I would very, very carefully and very, very secretly unwrap them. And then I'd pick out the colour that I liked and give my sister the other one. I know, that's terrible, isn't it, when you think about it? I mean, she did get the same as me. If it was an umbrella or something, then, you know, I just got the one I chose. but it was naughty of me. Yeah, so anyway, then later on I'd moved my celebration to Yule, and sorry, one of them's making noises. And who's that? Is that you? Oh, it's Echo. She's making a noise. I'm so sorry. Got really distracted by dog noises then. Yeah, and so I would go off to Yule, open Yule celebrations where just members of the pagan community got together, and you know, we'd often, if it was indoors, then we'd share food and it would become lovely. And then I met Neil, and you know, we continued. You know, he's always done Christmas with his family, and his family would always invite me for Christmas, and I just couldn't bear it. I just couldn't go. Just the thought of, you know, I didn't want to do Christmas with my family, with people that I knew, let alone somebody else's family. You know, at that time we were together but not married or committed to each other. It was just the thought of going and having to have this false merriment, and if you're not feeling very merry. And so I used to say to him, well, look, you know, it's your family and you enjoy it, you go. I'll just stay here. And so I'd spend Christmas on my own at home, and he'd go off to his mum and have a good Christmas. And you know, it's perfectly, I don't mind anybody else celebrating Christmas in whatever way they like to. You know, that's good for them. You know, and I would I'd ring mum and dad and wish them a Merry Christmas. But as the years went by, you know, even things like Christmas cards, I just can't be bothered anymore. The sitting there for hours on end writing out cards to people that the only time you communicate with them is at Christmas, and getting disappointed when they don't send one back or whatever, and I just couldn't be bothered. And I don't actually have anywhere to put cards up in this house. I really don't like cards at all. I get slightly irritated when they keep arriving because I've got nowhere to put them. And you know, as soon as the door opens or closes and a draft comes through and they all start falling over, it's not what I'm looking for, not what I like. So all of my celebrations went back from 25th of December to 21st of December and became the Yule, you know, the seasonal celebration that I would celebrate, you know, that I would have a special Yuletide meal. I mean, even Christmas dinner, I've never ever liked turkey. And yet if you don't have turkey, it's not quite the same, is it? So, you know, I cook it for other people, but I didn't actually enjoy it myself at all. But Yule, you can cook whatever's good for you. And but then that all started to go, or not started to go wrong, it took a completely different flavour. 13 years ago, on the 20th of December, spoke to my dad on the phone. He'd rung up, he'd had a wonderful day, he'd been out to the garden centre, got a poinsettia because he got one every year, a very Christmas flower, and he was talking about putting in a new boiler. So he wanted to speak to Neil because Neil's a heating engineer, so to get some advice about what sort of boiler he should get, all this sort of thing. Had a really long, lovely chat with my dad. Then that night, or rather early the next morning, on Yule, he had a massive stroke. The sort of stroke that you cannot recover from. And so we lost my dad, and that will always flavour Yule for me as the day that I lost my dad. And then exactly 3 years later, my mum had about 10 weeks before Yule had been taken into hospital, and she had to have an investigation done where she had the camera down to look in her stomach, but there was a problem, and they actually accidentally ruptured her esophagus. And there's really no recovering from that either. And so for 10 long weeks, Mum hung on in hospital. She wasn't allowed to eat or drink anything for 10 long weeks. And I knew that there was only one outcome, but I couldn't tell her that because, you know, she'd been given this death sentence. That sounds like Neil coming home now. Might have to abandon this video. And just before the Yule, the snows came that year. It was 2010. Heavy, heavy snow. And so she was still in hospital in Devon, but she lived in Cornwall. So I'd gone to, I'm trying to film here.
Motion detected at the front door.